Hi, I'm Ruth McGuinness, Business Development Director for Artificial Intelligence at Kainos, and I'm delighted to be here today to talk to Romy from Amazon Web Services. We're going to be discussing how Kainos and AWS leverage MLOps on AWS technologies to accelerate business value for our customers.
Yeah, hey, I'm Romy. I work as a partner solution architect for AWS. I've been working with Kainos on their MLOps offering. Thank you for having me, and I'm looking forward to talk a little bit about MLOps.
MLOps, or Machine Learning Operations, describes the process of bringing together data scientists and operations teams to manage machine learning services in production. The ultimate goal of MLOps is to establish the tools and processes needed across often disparate data teams to move machine learning from experiment or proof of concept into live operational use within the business, integrating the intelligent insights that we know can be generated by machine learning across the wider organization to drive genuine business value. As a technical partner to organizations, Kainos brings the machine learning and engineering expertise to bridge the technical capability gap between data science and operations teams. We enable the progression of maturity from experiment to production for our customers through building the technology infrastructure, processes, and level of automation required to empower data teams to own and operationalize and maintain the machine learning services that they've developed.
Yeah, absolutely. MLOps becomes particularly relevant when you talk about moving from single artificial intelligence or machine learning projects to implementing that at scale. And that makes sense because if you think about it, when you want to do a machine learning project, you have several activities, right? You want to collect the right data, you need to clean that data, then you need to create the model, train it, test it, and then once it's ready, you also need to operate it. So on top of that, in general, machine learning models require good tracking of cycles and experiments, tuning and training that is being done with them. So you want to implement good processes that allow you to store the versions, histories, and attributes when you are doing all these activities. Now, within these activities, you also have all kinds of teams that are involved, right? You have data scientists, data engineers, software developers, operations teams. And to do all of this at scale in your organization, you want to make sure that all these teams have access to the right data sets, infrastructure for prototyping, testing, and that this process is in place to guarantee the quality of and consistency of your projects. So this is really where the MLOps comes into play, like Ruth is saying, where we apply DevOps practices to provide streamlined ML lifecycle processes.
A common statistic quoted is that 87% of data science projects never make it beyond the experiment stage. And what that really means is that although most organizations have matured to the point that they recognize the importance of investing in data science internally, they aren't yet experiencing the wider organizational benefits or return on investment from doing so. And this often results in lack of buy-in at senior levels in the business in terms of the value that can really be recognized by data science. This is what we want to prevent, and Kainos leverage MLOps to address that challenge head on. In terms of benefits, I often say there's two distinct buckets of stakeholders who benefit from implementing MLOps within organizations. The first bucket is the technical stakeholders. In a nutshell, MLOps helps data science teams to work more effectively and, most importantly, to demonstrate their true value to the organization that hired them. MLOps provides technical teams with the tools and best practices to standardize and operationalize their machine learning development. And a big part of that is the level of automation that can be introduced. Cloud technologies like AWS enable automation for deployment and monitoring and retraining of models, meaning that data scientists can spend less time on maintenance tasks and more time on experimentation and development and driving insights from their data, which is what they were hired to do. The second bucket is the business stakeholders, or the end customer for these internal data science teams. Ultimately, the people in the business who should benefit from the data-driven insights generated by more effective use of machine learning. MLOps is all about scaling these insights and ultimately making them more accessible to business teams to leverage through integration with existing operational systems. Organizations today hold so much data, and the business use cases for machine learning are incredibly broad and represent an almost endless opportunity to drive a competitive edge for businesses across fraud detection, risk management, document processing, customer experience. But none of these can really be achieved until the technical building blocks for production machine learning are put in place to enable it.
Yeah, indeed. And machine learning has such a great potential, right, for many companies where you can apply things like fraud detection or anomaly detection. But in the end, MLOps is really the foundation that you want to put in place when you want to successfully deploy this kind of technology. And as Ruth is pointing out, actually, many of these benefits are enabled by the cloud, by the use of the cloud. Think of your data scientists now can spin up their own environment, right? No operations or infrastructure team needs to come into play to get that sorted. So there's a lot of self-service that you can now create through the use of this on-demand model that the cloud offers. So that has a huge impact on productivity, which is a key benefit of using MLOps. But also if you think about repeatability and reliability, the use of the cloud, you can now easily scale the processes of how your models work or how they train, how they're evaluated, versioned, deployed as needed, which allows for better, reliable processes as well as infrastructure and models. So really, MLOps is an area you really want to invest in to make your ML models work. So when we talk about MLOps, you will want to implement some key best practices. So first off, you will want to target project management and communication and collaboration, making sure that all your teams in your organization have visibility and access to the relevant projects, models, and data, and that each team understands the language that they're speaking, so to say. You also want to implement technologies such as infrastructure as code and CI/CD pipelines for source data and model versions. And finally, you will also want to make sure that you keep track of your model experiments and tunings in an automated fashion by monitoring and logging. So of course, the AWS cloud can provide you with many services that can establish that. Think of Amazon SageMaker, that is our flagship of machine learning tools that data scientists can use to build, train, and run machine learning. Or think of Amazon Lake Formation or Amazon CloudWatch for monitoring. But still, when we talk about MLOps, it is essentially the intersection of three dimensions, of which technology is only one. There's also people and process. So next to choosing the right technology, platforms, and tooling, it is very relevant to determine the goals and strategies of what your pipeline should include, and to evaluate the skill sets you have in-house and which pipeline dependencies might exist in your workflows. And on top of that, it's also relevant to know how much existing activity you have currently in machine learning. Are you building your own models already, or are you just starting out with machine learning? That will, of course, impact how you start implementing MLOps. So for these reasons, it can be very beneficial to work with an APM partner who can help you both with the cloud technology as well as with that people and process piece, which is right up your street, right, Ruth?
Thanks, Romy. Exactly. As an AWS partner, Kainos leverage AWS tooling, and we actually act as an implementation partner to customer organizations whenever they want to implement MLOps. We've distilled this down to a 5-step implementation process, and we work with customers to transition their machine learning from experiment to production in just 12 weeks. This starts with step 1, our mobilization phase. We jointly agree critical success factors with our customer. We meet key stakeholders in the business, and we progress the necessary logistics like access to technical environments within AWS and the relevant data sets for any of the machine learning models that we're going to be working with. Step 2 is discovery. Alongside you, we prioritize the most appropriate candidate machine learning models to transition to production, if these exist already within your business, or we can work with you to identify new use cases for experimentation. Following that, we'll assess the available data sets for quality and suitability. The models will only ever be as good as the data that you feed them. Step 3 is the design and build phase, where we'll work with you to design a flexible end-to-end production-ready infrastructure and then build this target architecture leveraging the tooling that we've chosen and some of the kind of technologies that Romy just described within Amazon Web Services are part of that. And this is where our partnership with AWS is really relevant. We work very closely with cloud solution architects like Romy and AWS to make sure that we're making the best possible recommendations about the Amazon tools that should be leveraged for production machine learning. And it's important to consider these decisions, of course, within the wider context of the technology strategy of your organization. Step 4 is the run phase. We'll deploy the prioritized candidate models through the end-to-end process as a repeatable template and into production as a deployed endpoint, leveraging automation as much as we can for the monitoring and maintenance of the models in the live cloud environment. Lastly is the final step, handover and knowledge share. We're really passionate about building the capability of our customers and not building reliance on us as a partner and a supplier. And throughout the project, our approach involves co-development, working side by side and continuous knowledge share with your data teams and wider technical teams. This final phase of the project really focuses on the formal documentation of the tooling, processes and frameworks that we've established, enabling technical stakeholders within your business to become confident owners of a production machine learning process that now drives genuine business value within your organization.
I think the way AWS is recognizing that MLOps is crucial to our customer success is by making sure that our services have all the tools that are needed to establish MLOps, whether in a managed fashion or within Amazon SageMaker. But Ruth, how about you give us a success story from Kainos side and working with AWS on this?
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Romy. I can share some insights from a recent MLOps project that Kainos delivered with a large general insurance firm. This particular organization had data analysts working in pockets throughout their organization. They typically ran short, agile data projects to deliver operational insights for business teams, and they used a mixture of SQL, R, and Python on their machines locally. As an organization, they weren't really leveraging cloud at scale, which is pretty typical for financial services organizations. What they ultimately wanted to do was establish an advanced analytics center of excellence to centralize the ownership of their analytics projects, operationalize their existing models, and start to scale machine learning insights across the wider business. We worked with them to implement our 12-week MLOps approach, which I described previously through the 5 steps that we undertake. The particular models that we prioritized for production included a customer singularity model for consolidating insurance quotes and a targeted propensity model aimed at reducing customer churn and increasing sales. So very quickly, as an outcome of implementing an MLOps infrastructure, we were able to support them in starting to drive real value across their organization within 12 weeks through enhanced intelligence and time savings for key functions within the business. A really important takeaway for this project was definitely the capability building aspect, particularly as the Centre of Excellence was a newly established function within the business, and we were supporting data analysts in the transition to production data science. So there was a bit of a skill gap there. We improved their confidence and maturity in leveraging machine learning and particularly cloud tooling as well at scale. And we're continuing to support the organisation beyond that initial 12-week period as they start to consider the development of even more complex models for production, and particularly as they become an exemplar within their organisation for working within the cloud.
That's really awesome. I think it's really good to see Kainos helping a customer establish MLOps, but also that being the groundwork for helping them advance the use of machine learning technology.
Thank you everyone for tuning in for our interview today. It was great for Romy to join me while we discussed MLOps. If you want to find out more and if you find that interesting, please feel free to connect with us on LinkedIn or visit the Kainos website.